Hey, this is Pastor Bunjee Garrett, and I want to take some time today to present you with another word of encouragement. Well, just in case you haven't heard, it was just earlier this month, that's when the former Grand Mufti of Egypt, Sheikh Ali Goma, he posted a video on YouTube in which he outlines the events which could transpire there in the Middle East after they successfully destroy the state of Israel. He begins by comparing Israel to a mosquito's wing, and that's when Sheikh Goma goes on to declare this, and I quote him, "Let us imagine a political scenario in which Israel is destroyed. What will happen? America will immediately move in." That's right. The Sheikh here presents this scenario and then continues to describe what he believes will happen by declaring this. He says, "Don't think that once we throw Israel into the sea, it will be the end of this story. America will immediately move in. The Hadith says, you will fight the Byzantines. Those Americans are the Byzantines of our days." Okay, so according to Sheikh Goma, the Arabs, they're preparing to throw Israel into the sea, and then America will immediately move in and take control of the promised land. And that's when the Muslims plan to fight against America, according to the prophecy found in that hadith. Gotcha. But wait, there's more here. You see, the Sheikh, he went on to inform us that this will actually spark the war, which is described in Ezekiel chapter 38. And here's how he put it, and I quote, "If Israel is finished and America moves in, what will happen? Russia will immediately move in." Who are these Russians? They are Gog and Magog, well-known tribes in Armenia. It is also known in the books. That's right. Sheikh Ali Goma believes that the stage is currently being set for the war that the Lord describes in Ezekiel chapter 38. Sadly, Sheikh Goma, who is an Egyptian Islamic scholar, he fails to really embrace the fullness of this prophecy. The reason why? Well, it's due to the fact that he's relying on the reimagined version that Mohammed created in the 7th century. Now, you might not know this, but there are 2 chapters in the Quran which provide us with Muhammad's version of this same battle. For example, it's in Surah 18 where Muhammad, he describes a messenger who informs him that Gog and Magog will be the final sign before the end of the world, and this sign will reappear in 2270 AD. Muhammad also mentions this battle in the 21st Surah, where he tells us that Gog and Magog will reappear as they come from every direction. We also find a few references to this invasion of Gog and Magog in the Hadith. And for example, in one Hadith, we learn about the day when Gog and Magog will kill everyone upon the earth, except for, the faithful who are hiding in the mountains with Jesus. It's at that point in time when, the battle of Gog and Magog, the enemies will shoot their arrows towards the sky in an attempt to kill the angels as well. And according to Muhammad, that's when Jesus will lead the Muslims to come and kill Gog and Magog. And then they're going to turn and vanquish the Byzantines, who, according to Sheikh Goma, is a reference to the Americans. Well, listen, it doesn't take a master's in divinity to realize that Muhammad's prophetic revision of the Gog and Magog invasion here is completely different from the prophecy that we find in Ezekiel chapter 38. For example, Muhammad conveniently leaves out the Islamic countries who will actually be a part of this invasion. There are many Islamic countries that form a confederacy with Gog and Magog. This, of course, includes Persia, which is better known as Iran. We also find 3 regions mentioned that make up modern-day Turkey. Then there's the Arabic nations of Sudan and Libya. They're also mentioned in this chapter. And not only that, but this invasion also includes Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Afghanistan. And listen, the one thing that these countries have in common is that they're all Islamic countries, most of which belong to the Arab League of Nations. Now, I want to remind you here that Gog is the prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal. And just to be clear, Rosh is a reference to Russia, Meshach is Moscow, and Tubal is Tobolsk. And what this means then is that Iran, Turkey, Sudan, Libya, and the stands from Magog, they're going to create a military confederation as they attempt to invade and conquer Israel. And while it's true that Muhammad conveniently redacted the involvement of Iran, Turkey, Sudan, and Libya, It's also true that he did in fact include Magog, which covers the regions of Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Afghanistan. And what this means then is that Muhammad himself has presented us with the proof that the Muslims are going to work together with Russia in order to invade Israel. And he describes this group of Gog and Magog as hostile and corrupt forces which will ravage the earth before the end of the world. Sadly, Sheikh Goma is deceiving his followers by leading them to believe that Jesus is going to be the one who will return and lead the Muslims to defeat Gog and Magog. In reality, it's the Muslims from Iran, Turkey, Sudan, and Libya who will join together with Russia and the Stans, and together they're going to invade Israel in an attempt to exterminate the children of Israel. And here's how the Lord explains it. In Ezekiel chapter 38, there he describes the desires of these invaders by declaring this: "In the latter years you will come into the land of those brought back from the sword and gathered from many people on the mountains of Israel." Notice he says Israel, not Palestine. And he says that these people had, the land had long been desolate, and they were brought out of the nations, and now all of them dwell safely. "You will ascend, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud, you and all your troops, and many peoples with you. Thus says the Lord God, on that day it shall come to pass that thoughts will arise in your mind, and you will make an evil plan. You will say, I will go up against a land of unwalled villages. I will go to a peaceful people who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, to take plunder and to take treasure, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are again inhabited, and against people gathered from the nations who have acquired livestock and goods and dwell in the midst of the land." To sum this up simply, the leaders of Russia, they're going to work together with Iran, Turkey, and the rest of the Islamic countries listed here in this prophecy. And while Muhammad would have us to believe that it's the Muslims who will save the day, the prophet Ezekiel assures us that no, that's not the case. The Lord is going to raise up the children of Israel, and together they're going to defeat Russia and this Muslim confederacy. As a matter of fact, it's here in Ezekiel 38. Here's where the Lord declares, "You will come up against my people Israel like a cloud to cover the land. It will be in the latter days that I will bring you against my land, so that the nations may know me when I am hallowed in you, O Gog, before their eyes. Thus says the Lord God, are you he of whom I have spoken in former days by my servants, the prophets of Israel, who prophesied for years in those days that I would bring you against them? And it will come to pass at the same time when Gog comes against the land of Israel, says the Lord God, that my fury will show in my face." That's right. The fury of the Lord will be revealed there in the land of Israel as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob begins to defend the apple of his eye, just as has been prophesied by the prophets of Israel. Here's how the Lord goes on to put it in Ezekiel chapter 38. There he declares, "I will call for a sword against Gog throughout all my mountains, says the Lord God. Every man's sword will be against his brother, and I will bring him to judgment with pestilence and bloodshed. I will rain down on him, on his troops, and on the many peoples who are with him, flooding rain, great hailstones, fire, and brimstone. Thus I will magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations. Then they shall know that I am the Lord." Here in the midst of this battle, listen, those who engage in this invasion of the land of Israel, they will quickly discover that the God who brought the people back into the land of their inheritance is also prepared to defend them from those who want to wipe Israel from the face of the map. Sadly, there are many in the world today who will learn this lesson the hard way. And while those who follow the teachings of Sheikh Goma continue to believe that they're going to be the people who defeat Gog and Magog, what these Muslims fail to realize is that the military confederacy of Ezekiel chapter 38 is mainly made up of Muslims who will work together with Russia. With that being the case, we must not fail to recognize that the foundations of this confederacy, they're already being forged. I'll remind you, it was just last year. It was July of last year when Russia Russia and Iran and Turkey, they got together. It was President Putin and Iranian President Rassi and Turkish President Erdogan. They met together in order to reaffirm their determination to continue working together, in order to stop the terrorists from engaging in illegal activities there in Syria. Now, let's just consider this group for a moment. Putin is the Russian leader who invaded Ukraine. Rassi is the Iranian leader who keeps funding Hamas and Hezbollah to attack Israel. And Erdogan is the Turkish leader who led the invasion and occupation of northern Syria. And now these guys are working together in order to stop terrorism in Syria? Right. That checks out. Clearly, these guys are just using Syria as a launching point as they prepare for their invasion of Israel. And while Sheikh Goma thinks that this is going to set the stage for the Islamic domination of the world, I can assure you that the Lord is going to crush the Russian Muslim Confederation right there on the mountains of Israel. And with all that being the case, I encourage every Christian, let's realize what time it is on God's prophetic calendar. And knowing that the time is short, let's prayerfully look for every opportunity to preach the gospel message of Jesus Christ. And in this way, we will continue to accomplish the great commission of Jesus Christ. With this as the goal, let's ask the Lord to empower us here in these last days so that we can, in fact, fight the good fight of faith, and all for the glory of God.